Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are continuing on with what we did a couple days ago, and it's reacting to award show nominations. Up to date, it is the Critics' Choice Awards. If you didn't see the last video I did on the Golden Globes, we're going to pretty much do the exact same thing. I've just pulled up the Critics' Choice website here. Before each category, I'm going to show you what my predictions were, and then we're just going to see how I did. Again, these are some of those exactly the same like I did for the Golden Globes. I put very little thought into these. I think on these ones you'll be able to see the timestamps. You'll be able to see how quick I blew through all of these categories. So didn't put a whole lot of effort into them, a whole lot of thought, just kind of gut feelings based off of what I feel like the Critics' Choice might do, as compared to what the Golden Globes did, etc. So I'm excited to just check these out. Again, same thing. The nominations were 10 hours ago this morning, but finally just got home from work, and as soon as I get home, we're throwing on the record and gonna see these. So I haven't seen any spoilers yet, and I'm excited. So let's get into them. We're gonna start here with best score is the bottom category. So my predictions for score. I had Dune Part 2, The Brutalist, Challengers, Conclave, The Wild Robot, and Emilia Perez. And then a couple of the kind of sleeper picks I had in there were Wicked and Saturday Night. This is one of those, I think the critics specifically are going to absolutely nominate the hell out of Dune Part 2. I think it is going to, honestly, my gut feeling is it might lead lead in nominations, because I think it's going to get in just about everywhere. And I think Challengers is another one that I think score is one of the categories that it's maybe most secure in, but I think Challengers is going to have a great day with the critics. I think they love Luca Guadagnino, so I think he's going to have a good shot here. So let's check out the nominations for score. It is Volker Bertelmann, sorry, I'm probably butchering that name, for Conclave, Daniel Bloomberg, The Brutalist, Chris Bowers, The Wild Robot, Clement Ducal and Camille for Emilia Perez, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross for Challengers, and Hans Zimmer for Dune Part 2. So yeah, that's a identical 6 for 6. I'm like having to double check. It's just reading the words, but yeah, I mean that's 6 for 6 there on score. We're just gonna move on to best original song, and this I have El Mal and Mi Camino, the two songs from Emilia Perez. I have Kiss the Sky, Like a Bird, Harper and Will Go West, and Beautiful That Way. So Beautiful That Way is the one that I didn't predict for the Globes, the Miley Cyrus song, so I'm just going to predict it here and see maybe if it is kind of like a front runner type song. And then Harper and Will Go West, I picked it again for the Golden Globes. I'm going to pick it again here for Critics' Choice because, again, it's out of all of these songs, it's the one that kind of stands out the most to me out of the movies I've seen. It's the one that I think of the most, and I think it was a beautiful song, so I'd love to see it get nominated. The nominees are Beautiful That Way from The Last Showgirl, that's the Miley Cyrus song. So I have that, and then Compress Repress. Oh, I didn't mention my two honorable mentions were Compress, Repress, and then Forbidden Road. Compress, Repress at this point, I mean, it's getting in everywhere. I think it might be, you might want to predict it for the Oscars. That's crazy. Compress, Repress, El Mal, Harper and Will Go West, Kiss the Sky, and Mi Camino. So I put in Like a Bird, which missed instead for Compress, Repress. So pretty close there on song. It's best foreign language film. I went with Emilia Perez, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, All We Imagine Is Light, I'm Still Here, Kneecap, and Flow. Now with Flow, I will tell you that, again, as I was making my predictions super quick last night, I don't know a whole lot about Flow. I haven't seen it yet. I almost went a couple days ago, but the timing didn't quite work for me. So I haven't seen it yet, and I don't really know anything about it. The one thing, so I picked it because I thought maybe that's a fun thing that the Critics' Choice might do, is nominate an animated film in foreign language film. But then I had the realization, I think I was a couple days ago, I was watching, I think it was The Oscar Expert. It's where I watch a lot of my Oscars content, but I can't remember who I was watching. But someone pointed out that, and honestly, it might have been Austin Burke, whoever it was. They pointed out there's no dialogue in this film, so I don't know if I had the realization like this morning while I was at work. I don't know if that would get nominated for foreign language if there's no spoken word in it, but that's what I went with. I probably would have switched it out for Vermiglio, if not The Girl with the Needle. Those were the two that were nominated at Globes. Vermiglo probably would have been my alternative for Flow, but that's what I went with. So let's check out the nominations. It's All We Imagine Is Light, Amelia Perez, Flow, I'm Still Here, Kneecap, in The Seat of the Sacred Fig. So I went 6 for 6. Um, anyway, that whole rant, I guess, was pointless, and we'll see if I even leave it in or if I cut that out of the video. But because again, I don't even know for sure if there is dialogue or not in the film. I think it was whoever I was watching that said it, but okay, cool. So that's another 6 for 6 category. If I didn't try and get fancy and just keep in compress repress on song, I would be perfect so far through 3 categories. But moving up to best comedy, which is interesting because I did my predictions on Brother Bro. It's the Oscar expert in Brother Bro. I did it on his app. I don't think I had best comedy as like a thing that I predicted. So this is a free category, I guess. Best comedies: A Real Pain, Deadpool and Wolverine, Hitman, My Old Ass, Saturday Night, and Thelma. First, that's really cool to see Thelma in there. Hitman, My Old Ass are probably my favorite two in this category, and then Thelma probably. I like Deadpool and Wolverine as well. A Real Pain, it definitely has comedic moments, but it's one of those that like I wouldn't outright put this in the comedy category. Kind of weird. And then Saturday Night is good as well. So honestly, this is a good category. But I mean, if we're going comedy, my favorite film of the year is Dee Dee. I feel like Dee Dee belongs in the comedy category, maybe over a couple of the others. But best animated feature, I did predict that. I went with The Wild Robot, Inside Out 2, Flow, Memoir of a Snail. I went with Wallace and Gromit, and I snuck in Transformers 1. I think in my head, I think of critics. I think they're some of the people that are most critical of Moana 2, so that I have that as one of my honorable mentions. I also put the Lord of the Rings, that animated Lord of the Rings show, as one of the movie as one of the honorable mentions, just because I think maybe of any critic or any group, maybe the Critics' Choice would be one that would nominate that. But again, I don't think the critics love Moana 2 that much, so I put it out, and I felt like Transformers 1 has gotten better reviews from this critics group, so I just took a shot there at Transformers 1 getting in over it. But what we've got here for animated feature is Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and The Wild Robot. That is only 5. So now I'm questioning whether, because I know obviously the Oscars is 5 a category, and I feel like a bunch of them are, but I thought that it's like the Globes and Critics' Choice I thought were the two that like went up to 6. So the fact that there's only 5 here in animated feature is making me wonder if a film is just missing from this list, or if they just didn't nominate a sixth. Because if they nominated a sixth and it was Transformers, then then I uh, had a perfect list there. That's interesting. I'll have to make a note to come back and check animated feature afterwards. Next up, we've got visual effects. I went with Dune Part 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Wicked, Furiosa, Gladiator 2, and Deadpool and Wolverine. Deadpool and Wolverine was pretty low, I think, on the odds on Brother Bro's app. But I can't imagine the Critics' Choice not picking a Marvel movie, and it's kind of the only. I mean, it is the only Marvel movie this year. So I just feel like it's going to get predicted. And then Furiosa and Gladiator 2 are two films here that I think you're going to see pop up, I think, in a lot of these kind of technical categories. Maybe not a lot, but more than you might think. So the nominees are Gladiator 2, Wicked, Dune Part 2, Better Man, The Substance, and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Okay, so my first category where I kind of was like really off. So Furiosa, a Mad Max story, did not make it. And what's the other one? Oh, Deadpool and Wolverine didn't make it. So instead, Better Man, which is the Robbie Williams biopic with him being portrayed as by a monkey. So obviously that, I think. Okay, I didn't mention it. I did have Better Man and Twisters were the two kind of alternatives I had. I did not have The Substance in there even as an alternative for visual effects, because I think a lot of what, I mean, obviously there is visual effects, VFX work that is done there, but a lot of it is kind of the I guess I don't want to spoil in case you haven't seen The Substance, but the character that appears kind of in the final act, a lot of it is kind of practical effects, and so I didn't necessarily think of it as a visual effect feat as much as I think of it more as like makeup and hairstyle into that category. So that's really cool. A, that's really cool that it's there for visual effects. B, that makes me think the Substance is going to get a lot of nominations here, which I'm excited about. Again, it's kind of my favorite film that's in awards contention. So moving up, we've got hair and makeup. Speak of the devil. So I went with The Substance, Wicked, Dune Part 2, Beetlejuice, A Different Man, and Furiosa. And then my alternatives, I put Nosferatu and Emilia Perez. So let's see, we've got Beetlejuice, Dune Part 2, The Substance, Wicked, Nosferatu, and A Different Man. So, take out. What did I miss? Oh, it's so no Furiosa, and put in Nosferatu, which makes me kind of nervous about my overwhelming. I went with Furiosa in at least one or two more categories. I think I'm getting slightly nervous now about that. That it's I've missed on guessing it twice, but Nosferatu is in, which I'm excited. That's one of my top two or three most anticipated the rest of the year. The the rest of the last two weeks of the year. So I'm excited to see that. I do have Nosferatu predicted somewhere else, but that was the only prediction I had for it. So, costume design. So I went with Wicked, Dune Part 2, Gladiator 2, Conclave, Maria, and Beetlejuice. And then this is another one where I had Nosferatu as an honorable mention, and I also had Furiosa as an honorable mention, which I don't think is happening now. But let's take a look. We've got Conclave, Nosferatu, Maria, Wicked, Dune Part 2, Gladiator 2. So Nosferatu is getting in. Because I thought because it was kind of high up I think in a lot of the predictions, but I just didn't know if it was going to get in a lot of spots, so I was very selective about where I was putting it. I should have been more aggressive in picking more Nosferatu. So that's in. Beetlejuice is out for costume design. Or everything so far with the critics group, I don't know historically, if this is really accurate, but I feel like they're typically kind of the more easy to kind of predict, mostly because I feel like a lot of the critics, people that are in the critics choice association. I'm trying to blank on what it's called, the just this critics group. A lot of the people that are in this, and so I think it's easy to know their tastes, and I think a lot of them are very kind of like-minded in that sense, so I think it's easier to predict them as opposed to like the Golden Globes, where it's just kind of like a mystery as to who's voting, the BAFTA, who kind of has new voting rules, and so it's like different things. You kind of have some picks that are like people that can be saved, and only a certain number of the nominations are voted on, and then the Oscars, just because it's such a wide range, it's hard to predict some of those. I think the Critics' Choice are a little easier to predict, and so far that's coming true, as I've been five out of six or 6 out of 6 in pretty much every category, and that's with me also putting zero thought into it. If I put a little more thought, I might have got a couple of these. So, best editing. Okay, so I went with Dune Part 2, The Brutalist, Anora, Challengers, The Substance, and Wicked. And then I put like three alternatives here. Conclave, just because I think, it's kind of the best picture contender, and so I think it's kind of a rule of thumb at the Oscars is you try and get a lot of the best picture films in here. Emilia Perez, I guess, kind of the same reason. And then I went with September 5, kind of interesting because on the video I uploaded on Tuesday, my Golden Globes reaction video, I recorded it obviously when I got home from work Monday and was talking about how I hadn't seen September 5 yet. That night I went to I talked about this in another video, the secret cinema things that are happening here. I don't know if this is everywhere, if it's just where I am, but you pay, you go to a movie and it's all is it's an upcoming release and you don't know what it is. So I went on Monday and it was September 5 right after its nomination. So I have seen it since the Golden Globe nomination. So I kind of wanted to put it in there because I thought that editing was a very strong part of that film. So the nominees are Anora, Challengers, Conclave, The Brutalist, Dune Part 2, and September 5. So interesting. So this is one where I missed two because September 5 and Conclave. So Wicked. Oh, okay. So Wicked missed and The Substance missed. So when The Substance got in for um, visual effects, I thought that was going to be we were going to start seeing an over nominations of The Substance, but not putting it in editing is kind of a big miss for The Substance. Like editing and, for me personally, sound design. A lot of these precursors don't really even have sound categories, but when it comes to the Oscars, it better be in there for sound design. Um, but yeah, I thought editing was kind of a shoe-in for The Substance. Interesting. Best production design. So we've got Wicked, Dune Part 2, The Brutalist, Conclave, Gladiator 2, and Furiosa. Those were my predictions, with Nosferatu and Blitz as alternatives. In hindsight, I really wish I could switch out Furiosa and put in Nosferatu. Let's see how this goes. The Brutalist, Wicked, Conclave, Nosferatu, Gladiator 2, Dune Part 2. So I just really kind of missed it on. I thought Furiosa was going to be kind of the critic, not redemption story, but I thought it was going to be like the critics were going to be like really going to bat for Furiosa, and Nosferatu I thought would get like a not one or two nominations, but it is every category that I think I've predicted. uh Furiosa, you could just remove it and put in Nosferatu, and I would have pretty much perfect categories. So that's annoying, but I'm sure if I had spent more than 2 seconds making these predictions, I might have hit a couple of those. So then next up we have Best Cinematography. So my predictions were Dune Part 2, The Brutalist, Nickel Boys, Conclave, Nosferatu, and Challengers. So this was the one where I did put Nosferatu in on my own. And then the honorable mentions, I went with both Emilia Perez and Wicked, the musicals. So the nominees are Nosferatu, Wicked, The Brutalist, Conclave, Dune Part 2, and Nickel Boys. So Wicked did get in, and what missed? Challengers missed. Um, I'm gonna mispronounce his name. Is it Mukdapram? Is that how you pronounce his? The cinematographer for a lot of M Night Shyamalan, or yeah, I think for M Night Shyamalan and for Luca Guadagnino. I think he's the cinematographer for a lot of because I think he did Trap as well this year. Um, he was. I thought that the critics, again, because that's one of my favorite parts about Challengers is the cinematography, especially in the final match between Art and Patrick. Yeah, that kind of shocks me that Challengers missed, because this was part of where I was starting to get the ball rolling for Challengers, where I was like giving it a lot of kind of these extra nominations, and I thought the cinematography was going to be one of them that it would get and kind of get this ball rolling. But man, that's a big. I guess it's not a big miss, but for me, because I was so confident that Challengers was going to sneak in there to cinematography. Then we have adapted screenplay. I went with Conclave, Sing Sing, Emilia Perez, Wicked, Dune Part 2, and The Nickel Boys. And then honorable mentions was Complete Unknown and Hitman. Complete Unknown I could see get in. Hitman I think I would like to see it, but obviously it's just kind of dead this whole award season. But now that I'm reading these, it's making me realize we haven't had Sing Sing anywhere yet. So let's see if it gets in here for adapted screenplay. We've got Emilia Perez, Wicked, Sing Sing, Nickel Boys, Conclave, and Dune Part 2. So, yep, that's just I think that was kind of the top 6 on the awards expert app. Original screenplay, I went with Anora, The Brutalist, The Substance, A Real Pain, Challengers, and September 5. And then I put down all 3 of Saturday Night, Hard Truths, and His Three Daughters as like alternatives. I don't think any of those are happening. So let's see here. For original screenplay, we have Anora, we have September 5, we have The Brutalist, we have A Real Pain, we have The Substance, and we have Challengers. And I just think, if you look at what was nominated, because that's 6 for 6 in both those screenplay categories, I think that's just that's your top 12 really at the Oscars. And then I guess Complete Unknown is kind of sitting there at 13. Those are like the only films that I think have a chance. And so the fact that you get all 6 in there, I think is big, unless there's something I'm forgetting, but I don't think there is. Those seem like pretty much the only 12 films, if you will, that have much of a shot at getting a Best Picture nomination at the Oscars. So let's move up past screenplay. We've got Best Director, so we're starting to get to the big hitters. Directors, I went with Brady Corbett. I need to learn how to pronounce his name before the Oscar season's over. Sean Baker, Coralie Fargette, that's another one I need to make sure I'm learning how to pronounce. Edward Berger, John M. Chu, and then I went with Denis Villeneuve. There's no way in hell, absolutely no way, the Critics' Choice snubs Denis Villeneuve here. The alternatives, I went with Jacques Audiard, Ramel Ross, and then Luca Guadagnino. So the nominees were. Okay, this is more. So this is more than six. Amelia Perez, Honora. I guess I should read the directors' names. Jacques Audiard, Sean Baker, Edward Berger, Brady Corbet, John M. Chu, Coralie Fargette, Ramel Ross, and Denis Villeneuve. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 got nominated. So pretty much everyone I said, plus the two alternatives, and not Luca Guadagnino. So he was the only alternative I mentioned that didn't make it. Um, I do now vividly remember director being way more than 5 or 6 at the Critics' Choice last year. There's a couple places that do crazy numbers. There's another precursor. I can't remember who it is. It's not one of like the televised precursors or the nationally televised. It's I can't remember who it is, but there is a precursor body that does like 10 nominees for director, which is insane. Because that's the problem is you look at this list for director and it's impossible to get any information in terms of like future Oscar predictions. Because who, if you trim this down to 5, who are the 3 that are out? I mean, because I was, you use this also as an opportunity to be like, yeah, the critics, there's no way they were going to snub Denis Villeneuve. But when 8 get in, obviously they weren't going to snub him because they had 8 spots. Like, there was plenty of room for him. So, not a whole lot of information gained there. We're going to ensemble next. So, I went with Wicked, Conclave, Sing Sing, Honora, Amelia Perez, and then I went with Saturday Night in the last one solely because the way I think of ensemble, I think your initial thought is like number of people in the cast, like how many famous people you got in this film. So that's why I went with Saturday Night. I then again realized this morning after the nominations, when I was at work, that I probably could have done that exact same thing for Dune Part 2. Like there are just so many famous people in that as well. So in hindsight, I wish I could flip Dune Part 2 for Saturday Night, but alas, I didn't. And then there's other things like Amelia Perez, um, and Conclave and Sing Sing, where those kind of get in because they have multiple people that are getting nominated across multiple acting categories. So it's like you're awarding the ensemble because there's so many great acting performances that are getting nominated in their own rights. And then I guess Honora kind of fits in that category too. I guess so does Wicked, but I put Honora and Wicked in like their own kind of bucket in my head of like those are the ones that I think that win ensemble, and that's because a lot of the winners for these ensemble awards, a lot of the precursors, they win because they nailed the lead actor. Like if you think like Joker won ensemble because it nailed Joaquin Phoenix as Arthur Fleck in that film. Um, there was like a bunch of musician biopics that win because again they nail the lead actor, and sometimes that's all it takes is if you nail the lead actor. Like Elvis, I believe won, and a couple like BAFTA and somewhere else it won the ensemble because you nailed Austin Butler, and so that's just kind of like what they think of as like ensemble or like casting awards. So I did for that reason I put a Complete Unknown as an alternative as well as The Brutalist, but those were the 6 I went with. And so we have Honora, Conclave, Amelia Perez, Saturday Night, Sing Sing, and Wicked. So again, remember that whole thing I just said about how I would have switched Dune Part 2 for Saturday Night? I never said that. You have no proof that I said that. I 100% never doubted Saturday Night as my prediction there. I imagine we're now moving into the acting category. Oh, Best Young Actor Actress. So this one is one especially that when I was looking at on the app and I was making the predictions, doing no research beforehand, I felt like isn't a great idea because I'm not sure like who's eligible, like what gets nominated. Like it was just kind of a messy, weird group. So here's where I went with. I went with Isaac Wong, Elliot Hefferman, Nakia Adams, Maisie Stella, Zoe Zegler, and Kaylee Fleming. The reason I went with them, because there's a couple of people again on the award expert app, like some of the Nickel Boys actors, and then not Yura Borisov from Honora, but the the guy that plays the husband. I think he was on there, and I look at him and I'm like, I don't think they're young enough, because I feel like I just vaguely kind of remember, again, doing no research really, but just kind of remembering over the past few years that I've been watching like the Critics' Choice. I just remember they feel like they go younger. They go for more of the kids. Like I think of Roman Griffin Davis winning for Jojo Rabbit. Like they the oh, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but the kid from Minari who plays David in Minari, like he won. Um, so I feel like they lean younger. So I went with the six that I picked here were just kind of the younger people there. I didn't go with anyone other than Maisie Stella from My Old Ass. I went with her just because I think she is clearly older than everyone else here, but I thought she was so good in My Old Ass that I felt like they were just going to nominate her anyway. So let's see. The nominees were Aliyah Brown from Furiosa, so I'm assuming that's um, young Anya Taylor Joy. Elliot Heffernan from Blitz, so I got that one. Maisie Stella from My Old Ass. Isaac Wong for Dee Dee, which is a tragedy that this is the only Isaac Wong nomination. Alicia Weir from Abigail, that's fun. And Zoe Zegler from Janet Planet. So I went with, yeah, Nakia Adams. And this is, on my paper, I wrote them down. I'm drawing a blank on what Nakia Adams was in. Um, I was trying to think of if it would just come to me. Kaylee Fleming was from If. I thought If is a film that I think I liked better than a lot of people, and I thought she was really good, and she's a big part of why I think it worked for me. So wanted to see her in here, but that's cool seeing Alicia Weir from Abigail. That was a fun movie. If you haven't seen Abigail and you don't know what it is, I recommend you go watch it. If you saw the trailers or if you know what Abigail is, they definitely spoiled way too much. Like that would be a really fun movie to go in blind without knowing anything. So if this is the first you're seeing of Abigail, then I recommend going and checking Abigail out. Now we've got Best Supporting Actress. I went with Ariana Grande, Zoe Saldana, Felicity Jones, Margaret Qualley, Isabella Rossellini, and Anjanou Ellis Taylor. So I snubbed Selena Gomez and Danielle Deadwyler, and I think Danielle Deadwyler should be getting in. Again, I haven't seen her film. I haven't seen it. I believe it's The Piano Teacher. Is that what she's in? I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard great things. But I'm starting to get these flashbacks of her in Till, where it's just she's everywhere, and then all of a sudden we get to the Oscars and she just disappeared. Now it just feels like she's disappearing early, and so I just don't know if she's just too new or she's just not. Danielle Deadwyler isn't a recognizable household name, and I don't know if that's why she's just not getting these nominations. But that's why I snubbed her. But I would be happy if she if she gets in. I just looked over first name Danielle Deadwyler, The Piano Lesson, not Piano Teacher. That's a different movie. Anjanou Ellis Taylor for Nickel Boys did get in as well. Ariana Grande, Margaret Qualley, Isabella Rossellini, and Zoe Saldana. So no Felicity Jones in The Brutalist, which is another one that I haven't seen, The Brutalist, but I've heard that she's not in it a whole ton. She kind of just she's in like the second half, I think, or like the after the intermission or something. So maybe because, but even then, The Brutalist is like a 4 hour film or something. So she's even if she's only in half of it, she's still in quite a bit of a movie. Um, Interesting. I'm excited to see again, I haven't watched any reactions. I didn't get anything spoiled. I'm excited after I finish recording this. I'm gonna go watch the Oscar Expert and Brother Bro their reactions because I'm sure they are going to probably lose their minds at that because that seems like a pretty big snub. Like I feel like Felicity Jones is in the conversation with Zoe Saldana and Ariana Grande, at least in my head, of like those are the potential winners. So that seems like a pretty big snub. Best Supporting Actor, I went with Kieran Culkin, Guy Pearce, Clarence Macklin, Denzel Washington, Yura Borisov, and Edward Norton. I think the top five are locks, and I think they're locks probably for the Oscar too. So we'll see if Edward Norton can get nominated and kind of keep the momentum. But Stanley Tucci and Jeremy Strong were the two alternatives that I had. So the nominees were Yura Borisov, Kieran Culkin, Clarence Macklin, Edward Norton, Guy Pearce, and Denzel Washington. So, yep, I feel like those are kind of the six, and once we get to the Oscars, I think a lot of people are just going to confidently kind of, like I just did, probably boot Edward Norton. So it's going to be interesting to see if he just keeps getting in everywhere. Maybe it's Yura Borisov, maybe it's Clarence Macklin. Like you'll have to see who is kind of the one that doesn't get that gets the boot as the sixth spot. Best Actress, I went with Mikey Madison, Cynthia Erivo, Demi Moore, Carla Sofia Gascon, Angelina Jolie, and Nicole Kidman. And then I put Fernanda Torres and Zendaya as alternatives. And we've got Cynthia Erivo, Carla Sofia Gascon, Maureen Jean Baptiste, who, why did I not even put her as an alternative? Interesting. Angelina Jolie, Mikey Madison, and Demi Moore. So it was Nicole Kidman. Didn't get nominated here for Baby Girl. Um, Interesting. So I kind of in my head thought of her as like she was in sixth, like she was not quite in contention for the Oscar. So it kind of surprising to see her miss, but again, I must have just missed Marianne Jean Baptiste. I think in my head I just because I'll be honest, I don't know a whole lot about Hard Truths. I haven't even really heard much about the film other than her. So I think maybe that's why I kind of was like after the Globe snubbed her. I just in my head was thinking, oh, maybe it's not really a thing. But that's good to see her get in here after that. That Globes, the Globe snub. For actor, I went with Adrian Brody, Timothy Chalamet, Coleman Domingo, Ray Fiennes, Daniel Craig, Sebastian Stan, and then Jesse Eisenberg was pretty much the only alternative I put here. Again, I think it's probably just Sebastian Stan's in sixth, and then it's just those top five. I think it's just kind of almost feels inevitable at this point for the Oscar. But let's see what they went. They went with Adrian Brody, Timothy Chalamet, Daniel Craig, Coleman Domingo, Ray Fiennes, and Hugh Grant for Heretic. Okay, so no Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice, and Hugh Grant for Heretic. Whoa, I that so far that's the biggest shock for me. Is he a thing? Is this because he obviously he made the Globes, but it was like the Globes comedy category, right? Is what he was nominated for. Do we have to start considering Hugh Grant because he's great in Heretic? I just didn't think Heretic was going to be a film that got really. That is, I did not even consider Hugh Grant. So yeah, no Sebastian Stan and no Jesse Eisenberg. Interesting. That's another one. I can't wait to see what the Oscar expert brother bro what their reaction is. Same with Austin Burke's another one that I do watch a lot of his reactions to these, so I'm excited to see how they react to that. And then we've got up top the big one: best film, best picture. I went with Anora, Wicked, The Brutalist, Dune Part Two, Conclave, Sing Sing, The Substance, Emilia Perez, A Real Pain, and Challengers. Now, the reason I went with Challengers is because I initially had Nickel Boys in there, but then that's just the 10. Like that's I think it's the AFI 10. It's like what everyone's predicting for the Oscar. I think that was the exact same 10 at like some other precursor, and I'm just like this is too convenient for us to have already settled in on our top 10. Like there's going to be more twists, there's going to be more craziness. And again, I just thought the Critics' Choice was going to be one of those groups that was going to love Challengers, was going to love Luca Guadagnino, so I went with it. Let's see what we've got. We've got. I guess I should mention now that I saw the first one there. Nickel Boys, A Complete Unknown, and September 5 were my three alternatives. First one here, A Complete Unknown, Anora, The Brutalist, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, Nickel Boys, Sing Sing, The Substance, and Wicked. So obviously just take out Challengers, put in Nickel Boys like I should have done. What missed for A Complete Unknown to get in here? A Real Pain. Okay. I'm now coming to the realization and I'm trying to process that A Real Pain, a movie about estranged cousins going on a trip on a tour through like memorable sites of the Holocaust and visiting, like their dead grandmother's house, this emotional like obviously it has comedic moments because Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin are both funny, and it's intentionally there are like I don't want to make it seem like it's not a comedy like at all. There are comedic elements, but I think of it when I think of the film, I think of it as a drama. It didn't get a Best Picture nom, but it did get a Best Comedy nomination here. Speaking of, let's go back to that comedy category. Did anything from that comedy category get nominated for Best Picture. A Real Pain, Deadpool, Wolverine, Hitman, My Old Ass Saturday Night, and Thelma. No, so nothing in this comedy category got a Best Picture. I don't think that's what happened. I don't think the critics voted for a Real Pain in comedy and then we're like, okay, it's good. We don't have to give it Best Film because obviously, hi. So yeah, so you're gonna take The Substance and you're gonna say The Substance isn't a comedy. It doesn't get into the comedy category. It's a Best Picture film. Anora isn't a comedy. We're not gonna put that there. I'm starting to wonder. Amelia Perez, it's kind of got some comedic elements. I don't think it's trying to be a comedy, but like as much as A Real Pain was trying to be a comedy, probably. So that is same with Wicked. Like Wicked has Ariana Grande specifically. Like she's hilarious. I I don't know. Something doesn't sit right with me there between having a comedy category and a film category and no overlap at all, and A Real Pain missing picture and it gets booted to the comedy category when I don't think of it as like an outright comedy. That's something I'm gonna have to like ponder and think about that as not on not on camera as I'm trying to record a video because yeah something doesn't sit right with me really on that. But let's scroll to the bottom because when I was queuing this up, I did see that they had nominations totals for every film down at the bottom. So let's okay, they're that's annoying. They're um, in alphabetical order as opposed to like descending order. So let's just give a shout out to everything that received multiple nominations. A Complete Unknown got 3. A Real Pain still got 3 nominations for supporting actor, screenplay, and comedy. Anora got 7, so that's so far the leader in the clubhouse. Best Picture, Best Actress, Supporting Actor, Acting Ensemble, Director, Screenplay, Editing, so that's a good haul. Challengers still got 4: Screenplay, Editing, Song, Score, but I was also predicting Cinematography and Picture, so I was predicting a bigger haul for Challengers. Conclave 11. That was like a sneaky 11. That was quiet because I think Conclave is one of those films. It's kind of the same as what's a good example? Like last year, I mean, just think of any year really when Martin Scorsese has a film. But yeah, last year with Killers of the Flower Moon, and then The Irishman, back in 2020. There are some films every now and then that you just kind of forget how many nominations they're getting because they just keep getting into like they're just a shoe in every category and you don't think about it and then at the end you look back and you're like, whoa, double digit nominations. I think that's what I just did with Conclave there. 11 seems like a lot, but it's one of those that it's like it's just a lock for every category and it didn't miss anything, so naturally it was going to get high number nominations: picture, actor, actress, supporting actress, ensemble, director, screenplay, cinematography, production design, editing, costume design, score. Like it makes sense for Conclave there. Dune Part 2 with 10, that was my prediction of was going to be the leader, fell one short to Conclave. Amelia Perez also has 10, so there's at least 3 films with double digit nominations. Flow ended up with animated and foreign language, so that's cool. Gladiator 2 did what I thought Furiosa was going to do, which that means Furiosa got. No, Furiosa did get 1 because it got young actor, or I guess young actress in their case. But Gladiator did what I thought Furiosa was going to do, sweeping in a bunch of technical categories. Um, Heretic with 1 for Hugh Grant. Um, let's see here. What Maria with 2 for costume design and actress. My Old Ass, comedy and young actor. So two categories that aren't going to be there at the Oscars. Nickel Boys ended up getting 5, which that's also felt like a quiet 5. It's not like a big number, but Nickel Boys just kind of feels like the almost forgotten film, I think, a little bit. But it got picture, supporting actress, director, screenplay, and cinematography, so that's great. Nosferatu is another one that did what I was predicting Furiosa to do, sweeping up a bunch of technical categories. Saturday Night ended up getting ensemble and comedy, so there's a couple. September 5, screenplay and editing. Sing Sing, 5 nominations there. That's another one where it felt like it took a while before we got a Sing Sing nomination because it's, again, I haven't seen the film, so I don't know for sure, but it just doesn't seem like it's a big tech, crafts player. The Brutalist with 9 makes sense, but a pretty big snub. It should have probably have 10 nominations. It should have got Felicity Jones. The Substance with 7. That's one I was interested in seeing, but not editing, which is feels to me a little crazy. Wild Robot with animated song and score. Wicked with 11. So Wicked and Conclave were the leaders. Picture, actress, supporting actress, all the way down. So you have, yeah, two with 11, two with 10. So four films got double-digit nominations. So seems like a lot of nominations for a couple of these films here at the Critics' Choice. But that was a lot of fun going through these. It's not as crazy, I don't think, as the Globes. There's one or two kind of big snubs, but it's not as, in terms of just like pure shock, the Critics' Choice stakes a little closer to what you think they're going to do, as opposed to like everyone else who's just wild cards at times. So yeah, these were kind of predictable, but ultimately they're good picks. It's not like I'm not criticizing the Critics' Choice for being predictable, because it's, for the most part, they got a lot of these categories right, and they absolutely did right by getting 7 nominations at least for The Substance, which was a film that I was kind of nervous, didn't think it was actually going to be an Oscar player, but now at this point I have no choice but to think it's an Oscar player in a lot of categories. So had a lot of fun looking at these. That's it. Let me know down below in the comments what you think of these nominations, if there was any snubs that made you mad, or if there's any nominations, surprise nominations you weren't expecting that were a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm excited for, I guess I have to look at it. It's either BAFTA or SAG. I don't know which one is next between the critics groups, but once we start, now that we're kind of into this full swing of Oscar season, I might start doing a couple kind of Oscar nomination prediction videos kind of beforehand, as opposed to just clumping them all into one long video like this. But I'm excited. We're into award season, so this is a lot of fun. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you'd like to like the video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate it, and have a great day.